Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this episode I will be continuing the build of a bookshelf that I started about 2 weeks ago. As many of you know, Hurricane Irma came through and sort of slowed things down a little bit. Well, with power back on track, here is part 2 of the multi-drawer bookshelf. I started breaking down the 3/4 inch plywood with my jigsaw and a straight edge, just because it was a little bit too cumbersome to do it on the table saw. Then I went ahead and cleaned out the edges on the table saw. Then I took the measurements from the shelves that I built last week in order to get the right size on the sides and the top and bottom walls of the bookshelves. Then I actually went ahead and cut out the dados to house the shelves into the side walls. I'm actually building 2 bookshelves that can be placed side by side in the room, or they could be placed individually. And again, I broke down the 1/4 inch panel for the back and cleaned it up on the table saw. Here I'm just cutting the top and bottom to final length. Just using some tape to label the shelves, since I do have 2 of them that will have a larger opening to house a 11 by 17 paper or poster. Making sure that everything is square, I'm applying glue and starting to assemble everything. I don't have a assembly table yet, and that's why I'm using my Alfie table, which is actually an old bench that I built, and my table saw as an assembly table. The glue is doing most of the work here, and as I'm starting to put this together, it's going to gain more and more strength. So until I'm attaching the back and all of the shelves, I just tack in a few brad nails. With a flush trim bit, I'm routing out, so making sure that everything is flush. This is something that I wish I would have done on the first try, the way I'm doing it now on the table saw, instead of using a router before mounting the shelves inside the cases. And here I'm starting to assemble the second bookshelf. It's worth mentioning that the sides and the bottom of the bookshelves are actually 3/4 inch, and like I mentioned in last week's video, the actual shelves carcasses are made out of 1/2 inch plywood. Again, I'm trimming out the back and everything else that needs to be flush. With my combination squares, I'm taking some measurements in order to have a reference for my trim pieces that I will make on the table saw. I'm using Sapele mahogany for the trim. You'll see later that I actually adopted a method that I learned from Dan Heimlich. Here's the way that I mentioned. I took it outside on the patio and filled the pinholes with some putty, and then I started work towards the finish. If you're wondering what type of wood putty I use, it's actually Bondo wood filler, and hardens very fast, so you have to make sure that you're mixing enough for a few holes, and then otherwise it'll just harden too fast for you to apply it. I'm just chamfering with a carving chisel the spacer faces, and then I'm starting to shape them as well as the trim to give it more of a rounder, friendlier to the touch feeling. Starting to prep the cabinets and setting them up for painting. So I decided to paint the inner walls in this mint paint that I got from a home store. It's a very light mint tint. And to contrast that, I made my own stain mix. I wanted to have the same shade as a walnut, but slightly more purple tint. It's very subtle though. It's not a very strident purple. So I applied the stain and then wiped it, and it kind of went one shelf at a time. And here I'm just ripping the very thin trim pieces in order to trim out the inside of each cabinet. My experience, as long as you don't have finish applied and just stain, the glue will adhere as long as you don't have a very large pieces to glue up. And that's the first time I used wipe-on poly, and it went on pretty nicely, and I applied a couple of coats.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and in a couple of weeks I will be posting the final part of this build. I will be making the legs as well as the drawers. I would like to thank each and one of you for watching, and if you haven't done so yet, please comment, share, or subscribe. This is very inspiring and helpful to me in putting out more content. Everyone have a great rest of the week, and I will see you next time.